Hello everybody, welcome back to Stitch Revive. Today we're going to go over the 3 different tiers of quality of clothing that I look for when I'm thrifting. This blue long sleeve is probably the lowest quality item I own, and how I can tell is that all of the raw edges of the fabric, they're just held together with a single stitch. I don't know if you can see it right there. There's nothing that's binding the raw edges, they're just free. And it is a knit, so it's not going to fray per se like a woven fabric would. But because it's only held together by one single seam, you can see down here, if you bust that seam, you have to fully re-sew that entire seam. There's no fail-safe. But yeah, the big thing you want to look for in looking at the quality of clothing is how the pieces of fabric are held together. Because if that's weak, then it's not going to survive much. Now I've got 2 shirts here for the second tier quality of clothing. I would call this is perfectly reasonable. This is how most clothing is made nowadays, but there is, tiers within that. You can see here in the brown one that it has one stitch connecting the 2 pieces of fabric together, and then on top of it, the raw edges are serged. This kind of interlocking thread at the edge is called serging. It uses a special machine to enclose the raw edges, and that's the most common way of finishing any seams today in our modern era because it is fast. A lot of times, some sergers come with an attachment so it sews the seam together, cuts the raw edge, and binds it all in one. You can see the hem here was just flipped up once, so this is still the raw edge, but it was top stitched down to stay in place. Same thing with the collar. It was serged and then attached. One big thing I want to impress on you is that not all serging is made the same. So if we take a close look here, we can see there's some pretty big gaps. Like we can see the fabric behind the threads. It's not a bad job, but it definitely has more likelihood to catch on little things like bra hooks or things like that. Versus this shirt, which I would say is pretty similar in quality. It's just like maybe one step up. They might have had a better serging machine. If you look at this, the serging threads are so much closer together. It's really dense. Another tell of this is a higher quality garment than the brown shirt is the neckline. The neckline is bound in a separate fabric. And so you have a really nice, sturdy neckline. Because one tough thing about necklines that are just made with the serging and then getting stitched down is that they warp a lot more. The less support that it has, the more likely it's going to stretch and warp, especially maybe getting it over your head or over hangers. This kind of finishing is a lot more likely to hold up longer. Now I'm going to show you some of the highest quality garments that I've found, starting with this nice olive green wool vest. Right away with this zipper, it has an extra facing to protect the zipper tape and that raw edge. So if there's any fraying in this raw edge, it's not going to get caught in the zipper teeth. We've got this nice collar. It's bound at the top with a nice knit. We've got the collar seam tacked down and top stitched. So that's not going anywhere. This front seam is top stitched 3 separate times. So not only does it add like a nice fashion element on the front of the vest, some visual interest to break up the green, but it also keeps this seam really flat to the body. The side seam here is not topped down. It's tacked here and here, which is pretty standard for most garments. And it's not bad per se, it's just these will fly away in the middle. And if you have that here, it's going to cause some weird lumps and bumps around the front of your garment where you really don't want any lumps and bumps. So that's a really, really nice finishing. Next we have this black bralette, and what's really, really nice about this is you're not going to find a single raw edge anywhere. There is no raw edges in this garment because it is what we call bag lined. So you can see there's a seam here at the bottom, and a seam at the top. How this garment was constructed is that every pattern piece was cut 2 times, put together separately, so that you basically had 2 of these bralettes, and then you put them on top of each other, sewed around, flipped it inside out, and so all of the raw edges are inside the garment. Don't mind how wrinkly this blouse is, I just haven't ironed it in a while. But something I wanted to show is, with this one, is that there's also no raw seams in this garment, but not because it's bag-lined, but because each seam has been what we call flat-felled. So once the 2 pieces of fabric have come together, with the seam allowance, the fabric left over, one of them was trimmed really, really short, and the other one was folded over and pressed flat down and then tacked down along the side. So there's no raw, like both the raw edges are in here and just encapsulated. I hope you now have a better sense of what to look for when you're thrifting to try and find higher quality garments. But don't stray away from, the Shein, the fast fashion in the thrift store. Anything to do to keep it out of the landfill is good in my opinion. And a lot of times, you feel a little bit less bad chopping up a Shein shirt and making it into something new than you do a nice wool vest that you just don't want to touch at all. So it's really, what do you want to do? What are you looking for? I just hope that you can look with a little bit more knowledge now. Have a good rest of your day. Make sure to like and subscribe.